The star of Eridani Sigma collapsed in on itself just before the blast wave reached the capital ring of the Veil Dominion. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, the world erupted. A pure, searing flash of white-hot light consumed the system's heart. A ripple of energy radiated outward like the pulse of a dying giant, shredding the Veil Dominion's outer defense satellites with brutal efficiency. In less than a minute, entire fleets were turned to cosmic ash. The power grid of Veil's capital, orbiting the gas giant Zale Prime, flickered and died. Firestorms erupted from the shattered arcologies, monuments to the grandeur of their civilization, plummeting into the now unprotected atmosphere below. It was a catastrophe on a scale unimaginable, and it had been entirely avoidable. The once proud Veil, who had terrorized their galaxy for eons, watched helplessly as everything they had built crumbled before them. There was no denying it. The Veil Dominion was on the brink of annihilation. Their power was fading, their fleets in tatters, their people dying by the millions. In those brief, agonizing moments, the full weight of the tragedy struck them. But amidst their despair, there was only one shred of hope left, and that hope was humanity. The Veil High Assembly had once declared humanity to be a Class 7 threat, a designation so severe that it was reserved only for those species capable of destroying entire star systems. Earth, isolated and alien to the galactic powers, had been cast aside, ignored, and ultimately branded a danger to the stability of the galaxy. The Veil had declared us to be dangerous, primitive, and emotional creatures, so unpredictable that the galaxy was better off without us. Humanity had been placed under a galactic quarantine, our technologies locked behind barriers, our diplomats denied entry to the grand halls of interstellar councils. To them, we were little more than an infestation, an unstable element in an otherwise ordered universe. And yet, here they were, the mighty Veil, now reduced to desperate broken remnants. A fragmented message crackled through the transmission channels, faint with static, barely a whisper in the vastness of space. Repeat. This is the High Executor of the Veil Dominion. We require immediate assistance. Sol Command. Do you read? Captain. Lena Rourke, standing tall and composed on the bridge of the EIDC Hammerfall, felt a cold chill run through her veins as the transmission reached her ears. She had fought for years to ensure humanity's survival. But now, she was being asked to save the very empire that had once threatened to wipe them out. It was a cruel irony, one that felt almost too far-fetched to believe. Yet, the transmission was undeniable. There was no turning back. Helm, Lena said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Set course for Voile space. Prepare for immediate action. All hands on deck. This is not a drill. As the commands flew across the tactical screens, Lena turned to the tactical officer, Lieutenant Vance Shao, who had served with her for more than a decade. His brow furrowed in confusion, disbelief clear in his eyes. But, Captain, he said, his voice low, almost questioning. These are the Veil we're talking about. The ones who declared us as a threat, who branded us as lesser. You really think we should help them? Lena's gaze never left the viewport as the ship's engines ignited, with a low, powerful hum propelling them into the void. Outside the Hammerfall, stars drifted by like distant flames in the night, unaware of the unfolding drama. She breathed in deeply, understanding the weight of Shao's words. But she also understood the reality of the situation. They were right, she said, her voice soft but firm. We were dangerous, monsters if you will. But we're not the monsters they thought we were. And now, we're the only ones who can stop them from burning. With a heavy sigh, Shao looked down at his console. So, we saved them. But why? After all they've done to us, after everything they've taken from humanity, why should we risk our lives to help them now? Lena's expression hardened, her gaze narrowing as she turned back to face him. She had heard the same question 1,000 times before. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, exiled, betrayed. Many had asked why the galaxy hadn't given Earth a chance to rise to its potential, to thrive in the cosmos. But Lena had always believed in something deeper, something more profound than revenge or resentment. Humanity's strength wasn't just in its weapons or technologies. It was in their resilience, their willingness to stand up, to fight, and, yes, to show mercy even when it seemed undeserved. "Because we're human," Lena said simply. "And if we don't help, then no one will. If we're not there to stop their self-destruction, who will be?" A tense silence filled the bridge as the crew worked diligently, preparing for the mission ahead. The Hammerfall, humanity's most advanced dreadnought, glided through space like a shadow, a perfect embodiment of Earth's newfound might. Built with the combined knowledge of Earth's finest minds, a culmination of years of isolation and innovation, it was humanity's answer to the galactic powers that had once ignored them. Designed for both destruction and protection, the Hammerfall was a marvel of technology, capable of bending the very fabric of space and time with its advanced gravitational drives, cloaking shields, and quantum weaponry. Yet, for all its technological prowess, it was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's ability to endure, to rise from the ashes, and to bring about change even in the darkest moments. It was Earth's answer to the galaxy's doubt. The Hammerfall was their salvation, and it would bring hope to those who had once considered humanity a mere threat. And now, with the Vale Empire on the brink of collapse, it was time to face the consequences of that ancient decision. To see if mercy could truly be given to an enemy who had once wanted to see humanity wiped out from existence. As the Hammerfall crossed into Vale space, the crew began the painstaking process of stabilizing the wreckage of the Vale star system. The technology they wielded, the very technology they had developed in secret, would be used to pull the Vale from the brink of extinction. Project Helix, humanity's emergency intervention protocol, was activated. Thousands of automated drones, shaped like sleek silver needles, emerged from the Hammerfall's bays and began their mission to stabilize the failing planetary systems, reconfigure atmospheric shields, and generate emergency power for the colonies. "We're not just saving their bodies," Lena thought to herself as she watched the process unfold. "We're saving their future, no matter how much they hate us." But in the silence of space, a question lingered, unanswered. Who had triggered the cataclysm in the first place? The collapse wasn't a natural disaster. It had been engineered. Someone, or something, had manipulated the Vale star, causing the supernova to destabilize the system. But why? And who would go to such lengths to destroy an empire that had once crushed all in its path? The mystery deepened, and Lena's gut told her that there was more to this than simple coincidence. But for now, there was only one task at hand: save the Vile. The Hammerfall drifted silently through the shattered remnants of the Vile Dominion, its immense hull gleaming in the dim light of a dead star. The once proud systems of the Vile were now in disarray, their space stations drifting as lifeless husks, their once glittering cities reduced to smoldering wreckage. Where the Vile had once reveled in their technological supremacy, now only the silence of collapse remained. The Vale were a civilization that had once boasted of their command over time and space, capable of manipulating gravity and bending light itself, yet now they were utterly helpless. All their advancements, all their power, had been reduced to dust in the wake of a single cataclysmic event. As the Hammerfall's systems hummed to life, Lena Rourke stood at the command deck, staring out into the eerie void. The viewports displayed a scene that should have been a symbol of victory, humanity's triumph over its ancient oppressors. But Lena didn't feel victorious. Her heart ached with a deep, unsettled feeling. This wasn't just about survival. This was about mercy. It was one thing to destroy an enemy. It was another to lift them from the brink of annihilation. "Captain," Lieutenant Shao's voice broke through the quiet, bringing Lena's focus back to the bridge. He was standing by the tactical array, his face tense. "We've received a message from Vale Command. They're asking for more than just help. They're asking for human intervention. It's not just about rebuilding their fleets or stabilizing their systems. They're asking for us to assist in repelling an unknown force. Something far worse than their collapse." Lena's hand gripped the edge of her command chair as her mind raced. The Vale were a people who had once seen themselves as the architects of the galaxy. They had decimated civilizations with barely a flicker of emotion, their vast fleets swarming through the stars like locusts, their weapons capable of turning entire planets to ash. Now they were asking for humanity's help. For protection. They were no longer the predators, they had become the prey. "Put it through," Lena commanded, her voice steady but sharp. The screen flickered, and a new figure appeared before them. High Executor Zeleth, the highest-ranking Veil leader, stood before them. His tall, angular form was silhouetted against the ruins of his empire, his black exoskeleton gleaming like polished obsidian. His cold, alien eyes met Lena's, and for the first time in history, he did not wear the usual arrogance of the Veil. There was fear in his gaze, and beneath that fear, desperation. "Humanity," Zeleth's voice echoed across the comms, metallic and clipped. We have gravely underestimated you. And now, we face an enemy beyond our comprehension. This force, it has the power to unravel everything we have built. We do not ask for your forgiveness. We only ask for your help." The Vile Executor's words hung in the air, thick with the weight of the moment. For centuries, the Vile had seen humanity as an inconvenience, an insignificant species barely worthy of notice. Now they were clinging to the very species they had once scorned, their pride shattered, and their fate resting in the hands of those they had once tried to erase. Lena didn't hesitate. "We'll help you," she said firmly, even though every fiber of her being screamed in protest. "But know this, humanity doesn't forget. There will be a reckoning for the lives you've taken." Zeleth's eyes flickered, perhaps with a hint of guilt, or perhaps it was fear. His response was low, almost inaudible. "We are not the ones who destroyed your world." The statement hit Lena like a fist to the gut. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Do not mistake me," Zeleth continued. "We too were victims. Something, or someone, set the collapse of our star in motion. The destruction was not by our hand, but it was done with purpose. Whoever this force is, they are not your typical enemy. They are something else. Something ancient. And they are coming for us all." The words lingered in the air, thick with foreboding. There was a deeper mystery here, one that went beyond the Veil's prideful fall. The collapse of their star system, the mysterious force that had initiated it, and now their plea for help. It all seemed to point to something larger than anyone had anticipated. The Vile Empire, once the unchallenged masters of the galaxy, were now at the mercy of something far beyond their understanding. Lena clenched her fists, her mind racing. If the Vile were to be believed, this threat was unlike anything humanity had faced before. It wasn't just the Veil who were in danger. It was every living species in the galaxy. And humanity, the very species that had once been regarded as an unpolished stone, now stood as the last hope for survival. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. The galaxy's ancient powers had underestimated humanity at every turn. Now, humanity had the power to decide whether the Veil, or any of the galaxy's civilizations, would survive. The Hammerfall's engines hummed softly as they maneuvered through the decaying remnants of Veil space. The ship's advanced sensors began to scan the surrounding systems, searching for any trace of this unknown enemy. The Vile High Executor's transmission had been vague, and Lena had no intention of trusting them blindly. Her crew was ready for anything, but she knew they needed more information before they could make a move. She could feel the weight of every decision pressing down on her, each step in this journey carrying immense consequences, not just for the Veil, but for every living being in the galaxy. "Open a fleet-wide channel," Lena ordered, her voice calm but resolute. The bridge crew complied, and soon the faces of her officers appeared on the holo display. Shao, Rourke's second-in-command, stood with his arms crossed, a grim expression on his face. Engineer Officer Juno Patel adjusted her glasses, clearly disturbed by the implications of the mission. But it was Dr. Zane Harper, the ship's lead scientist who had the most insight into the matter at hand. "Captain," Harper said, his voice low but urgent, "the Vile, their star didn't just collapse naturally. The collapse pattern doesn't align with any known supernova event. Whoever, or whatever, did this, they have a technology capable of manipulating the core of a star. And if they can destabilize a star, they can destabilize anything, even the fabric of space-time itself." The implications of Harper's words were chilling. If this unknown force had the ability to manipulate stars, who knew what other powers they could wield? The galaxy's very foundation could be at risk, and humanity was being called upon to protect it. The weight of that responsibility was staggering. "We need to know more," Lena said. "Contact all nearby systems. Bring in all available intelligence. And I want a full scan of the Veil's star system. If we're going to fight this enemy, we need to know what we're up against." As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, Lena couldn't shake the sense that they were on the edge of something monumental. The Vial might have been the first to fall, but they wouldn't be the last. Whatever force was out there, it was coming for everything. And if humanity was to survive, they would need to unite, not just with the Vial, but with the entire galaxy. But as the Hammerfall continued its journey deeper into the heart of Vial space, one question burned in Lena's mind. Who, or what, had triggered the destruction of the Veil star in the first place? The Hammerfall slipped deeper into the heart of Veil space, its massive engines propelling it through the emptiness. Outside the observation window, the remnants of Veil's once proud star systems lay scattered, their fragments adrift like broken shards of a shattered mirror. The beauty of the scene, of the deep void stretching on in every direction, was an illusion. The remnants of a galaxy-dominating empire, now lost to time, were too vast and too many for any ship to ever cross in a single lifetime. The Veil had once wielded unimaginable power, but the tide of fate had turned, and now their greatest fears were laid bare. Inside the Hammerfall, the crew worked furiously, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of their consoles. Xiao was at the tactical station, eyes flicking rapidly over the incoming data as he worked to process and analyze every last detail. Juno Patel, the chief engineer, was deep within the ship's diagnostic systems, her fingers flying over keys to ensure everything was running smoothly. But it was Dr. Zane Harper, the ship's lead scientist, who had the most concerning report. "Captain," Harper's voice was steady, but it carried a note of urgency. "I've been analyzing the data we retrieved from the Veil's star system. There's something I need to show you." He activated the holoprojector, and a three-dimensional model of the Veil's collapsing star appeared in front of them, spinning slowly. "It's not just a star collapse," Harper continued. "It's a designed event, and it follows a specific pattern. The core didn't just go supernova, it was forcibly compressed. Whoever did this had the ability to manipulate the star's mass directly, creating a violent implosion that sent shockwaves across the entire system. It's not natural. It's manufactured." Lena frowned, her gaze shifting between the star's catastrophic collapse and Harper's analytical expressions. "You're saying someone did this on purpose?" "Yes," Harper replied, his fingers tracing the holographic model. "And if we're correct about the mechanism they used, this isn't just about manipulating stars. Whoever this force is, they're capable of altering the very structure of matter itself. Gravity, time, space, they've learned how to bend these fundamental forces to their will." Lena's mind raced. The Veil had always been known for their near-mythical understanding of advanced science, their ability to harness the most complex principles of physics, but even they hadn't achieved such feats. It was as though this new enemy had unlocked some forbidden technology, something even the most advanced civilizations like the Veil couldn't begin to comprehend. If this enemy could manipulate stars, what else were they capable of? "And this enemy, do we have any idea who they are?" Lena asked, her voice filled with a combination of suspicion and dread. Harper shook his head, but his expression told her everything she needed to know. "We don't know. All we have are these signs, the patterns of destruction. But I suspect this isn't just an enemy of the Veil. This might be something much older, something far beyond even their understanding." As the crew processed the implications of Harper's findings, Lena felt a chill creep over her. Something ancient. It wasn't just a cold, tactical enemy. They were up against an unfathomable force, a power that had been dormant for millennia, and now it had returned to wipe the galaxy clean. What if this force wasn't after just the Veil, or even the human race? It might have come to eradicate all life, all civilizations, regardless of their allegiance or history. Lena glanced at Xiao. He had been quiet up until now, but his sharp gaze never left the star map. "Captain," Xiao said, his voice low, "if this force is capable of manipulating stars, then they can move beyond just Veil space. They could attack any system at will. It's not about whether we can fight them. It's about whether we can stop them before they reach every other race in the galaxy. Lena nodded grimly. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. The Hammerfall, a ship built for warfare, might not even be enough to halt the devastation this force could bring. The galaxy was on the brink of an apocalypse, and humanity had been thrust into the center of it. The message from the Veil High Executor echoed in Lena's mind. They had asked for humanity's help, but the truth was that the Veil were no longer in a position to bargain. The old order was gone, and now the galaxy was asking humanity to step in, not as a sidekick or ally, but as a last line of defense. What exactly do they want from us? Lena asked, her voice cutting through the tension. On the bridge, they want us to help them defend the last bastion of their civilization, Xiao replied, his voice grim. They've built a massive defense grid around the remnants of Veil Prime. They've pushed their remaining fleet to its limit to hold back the enemy, but they're running out of time. The Veil need us to reinforce their forces, to add strength to their defense lines. And once we do that, they're willing to open their archives and share their technology with us. Lena absorbed the information, her mind spinning. The Veil had a treasure trove of scientific advancements, faster-than-light travel, weaponry that could obliterate entire planets, and technology that could bend the very fabric of space. If humanity could gain access to this knowledge, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift dramatically. But at what cost? Are they asking us to risk our lives for technology? Lena's voice was cold, steely. Not just technology, Xiao replied, his eyes narrowing. They're offering us their last hope, Captain. Without our help, they'll fall, and the entire Veil Dominion will be wiped from existence. And they're certain that the enemy won't stop there. They'll move to the next system and the next, until they have wiped out every civilization they find. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Lena looked out at the stars through the viewport once more. The vastness of the universe had always inspired awe within her, but now it felt suffocating. There was no escape, no sanctuary. If humanity failed, there would be no more stories of ancient empires, no more heroes, just silence. Her mind was made up. The Veil might have been humanity's ancient enemies, but now they were in a position where they had no choice but to ally with them. There would be no forgiveness for the Veil's past actions, but right now that didn't matter. What mattered was survival. If humanity could help them, they would. But the galaxy needed to understand that this wasn't just a fight for the Veil. It was a fight for every living being in the universe. We move out, Lena said, her voice a mixture of command and resolve. We'll reinforce Veil Prime's defense grid. We fight with them, but we do not forget why we're here. The crew nodded, and the Hammerfall shifted course, heading toward the heart of the Veil's shattered empire. But as they moved deeper into the dark unknown, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led into a trap set by a force beyond even the Veil's understanding. The stakes had never been higher, and the future of every living being in the galaxy rested in their hands. The approach to Veil Prime was unlike anything Lena and her crew had ever seen. The shattered remnants of the Veil Empire had converged around a single planetary system, a final stronghold suspended in the void. Veil Prime, once the jewel of the Empire, now bristled with ancient defensive structures, orbital fortresses, colossal energy latticeworks, and relic warships drifting like ghosts across the perimeter. But what chilled Lena's blood was the silence. No chatter, no distress signals. Just the cold hum of systems operating on the edge of collapse. As the Hammerfall entered the outer defense sphere, it was scanned by 1,000,000 eyes, satellites, drones, and sentient security protocols older than humanity's recorded history. For a moment, Lena thought they would be rejected, maybe even fired upon. But then, like a curtain parting, the systems granted them passage. A single corridor through the mine-laced kill zone opened, directing them toward the planet. Veil Prime was no longer the lush, towering world depicted in their archives. Once cloaked in bioluminescent forests and crystalline cities that stretched into the clouds, it now looked bruised and scarred. The surface had been shattered and stitched together by force fields, with entire continents held in place by artificial gravity tethers. Massive fractures glowed with the fire of the planet's exposed mantle. as if the world itself had been split open in defiance of extinction. Orbiting the dying world were hundreds of Veil warships, most heavily damaged, their hulls patched with crude repairs and energy fields. And yet, even in their broken state, the sheer technological superiority was undeniable. These were not just ships. They were spaceborne deities, living relics of an empire that had ruled the stars like gods. "Bring us alongside the Tavar." "A loon," Shao said, pointing to a vessel so massive it made the Hammerfall look like a child's toy. "It's the High Executor's flagship." They docked with precision, guided in by gravitational tethers. The airlock hissed open with a sound like a creature exhaling its final breath. Lena, Shao, Harper, and 2 honor guards stepped through, into the belly of the ancient beast. The interior was cathedral-like, filled with soft, resonating tones and an almost sacred ambiance. Alien runes pulsed along the walls, reacting to their movement. Viel technology wasn't built. It was grown, cultivated from organic tech hybrids that responded to emotion, intention, and perhaps even consciousness itself. The High Executor awaited them in a chamber surrounded by swirling light fields that projected entire stellar maps in real time. He was taller than Lena remembered, slender, with skin like polished obsidian, and eyes that shimmered with layered intelligence. Time had not been kind to him. The grief and burden of leading a dying empire were etched into every motion, every glance. "Captain Lena Voss," he spoke in a voice that reverberated through the very marrow. "You have come. I thank you." "The Viel remember." Lena approached, her posture formal but not deferential. "Let's skip the ceremony. You asked for help. We're here. But I need to know what we're up against. We've seen the destroyed stars. We know something's coming." The High Executor nodded slowly and gestured toward the projection at the room's center. It shifted, collapsing from a galaxy-wide star chart to a single red sphere. The origin point of the destruction. A void system. No light, no known mass, no signals. Just a distortion in gravitational readings that spread like a slow, crawling sickness. We call it the Malthun. The word has no direct translation in your language, but it means devourer of potential. It is not an empire. It is not a species. It is a principle, a mechanism woven into the dark energy of the cosmos. It awakens only when entropy reaches a threshold. Lena stared at the expanding red sphere, horrified. "You're saying it's a force of nature?" The High Executor turned, and for the first time, Lena saw something she never expected in a vial. Fear. Yes and no. It thinks. It adapts. It doesn't communicate. It doesn't negotiate. It consumes civilizations the way a virus consumes cells, methodically, efficiently, and without malice. It sees complexity as a contamination of the cosmic balance. Its function is to reset the clock. Harper took a trembling step forward. "Entropy threshold. Are you saying that once a galaxy reaches a certain level of technological complexity, this force activates to wipe the slate clean?" The Executor nodded. "We thought ourselves masters of creation. We pushed beyond the veil, tampered with dark matter synthesis, tried to seed our own pocket universes. In doing so, we triggered the Malthun's awakening. Now, we cannot unring the bell." Shao clenched his fists. "Why haven't we heard of this before? Why didn't any of the older species warn us?" "Because none survived," the Executor replied, his voice hollow. "We found fragments, ruins in galaxies long dead, records from ancient ones who met the same fate. Every time they grew too fast, too far, and they were erased. We believed we could break the pattern. We failed." A heavy silence fell. Lena felt it deep in her bones, the realization that they weren't fighting a conventional enemy. They were up against a correction, one triggered by the ambition and pride of advanced life itself, and humanity, ascending rapidly through the technological ladder, had likely already caught its attention. "We can't stop the Malthun with ships and weapons," Harper whispered. "Not if it operates on that scale, not if it's woven into the physics of the universe." The Executor's eyes darkened. "Which is why you are here." The veil, in desperation, turned inward. "We began studying a final theory, A forbidden convergence of time dilation, neural synchronization, and quantum state memory. A way to imprint survival into the very vacuum between atoms. To store consciousness, identity, culture, not in machines, but in space-time itself. A last arc. Lena's breath caught. You want us to help you? Preserve the vial? Upload your civilization into the void? No, he said. We want to preserve you. Humanity is the youngest, most volatile civilization. You've evolved faster in 3 centuries than we did in 30,000. Your adaptability, your rage, your compassion. It is unique. If anyone has a chance of resisting the Malthun, of surviving its cleansing, it is not the vial. It is you. The offer was staggering. Not just an alliance, but a legacy. The vial weren't asking humanity to help save them. They were handing them the torch. Lena looked around at the ancient ship, at the dying stars through the viewport, and then back at the galactic void unfolding before them. There was no time left to argue over history or pride. The universe was ending by design, and they had just been invited to become its final resistance. I need time to think, she said quietly. You don't have time, the executor replied. The Malthun is already moving toward your worlds. Earth may not see it yet, but it sees Earth. Lena stood in the middle of the chamber, her mind racing with the weight of what had just been revealed. The executor's words echoed in her head. The Malthun is already moving toward your worlds. The Earth she had fought so hard to protect, the civilization that had risen from the ashes of its past, was now standing at the precipice of cosmic annihilation. Not by war, not by some unstoppable alien force, but by the cold, impartial sweep of entropy itself. A force too vast, too incomprehensible to defeat by conventional means. Time, she muttered under her breath. We don't have time. It wasn't just the threat of the Malthun that loomed over them now. The burden of the vial's plea weighed heavier than anything Lena had ever faced. They weren't asking for military support or resources. They weren't asking to preserve their own legacy, their civilization's technology, or even their species. They were asking for humanity to become the last bastion of resistance against a force that could not be fought. The executor's offer to upload humanity's essence into the void wasn't just a salvation. It was a gamble, one with no guarantees. The very idea of compressing human consciousness into the fabric of space-time felt almost blasphemous, as though they would become ghosts wandering in the cold quantum between worlds. Could they really preserve the essence of humanity that way? Or would they simply lose themselves to the void, their individuality consumed by the very laws they were trying to outsmart? Lena, Xiao said softly, his voice filled with a gravitas that caught her attention. He was standing by the viewport, staring out at the dying stars. His face was a mask of contemplation. We have 2 choices. We can walk away, return to Earth, face the inevitable, and hope for a miracle. Or we can take the risk, work with the veil, and make a stand. But there's no guarantee we'll win, and even if we do, we won't be the same. Lena felt the weight of those words settle on her chest. Earth was already teetering on the edge, with the growing tensions between nations, the rise of AI, and the rapid depletion of resources. Humanity was not ready for the cosmic scale of what was coming. Yet the prospect of becoming the very thing the veil had warned them against, the last bastion of survival, a living ark floating between the cracks of space, was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. You've seen the destruction of entire star systems, Harper added, stepping forward. You've felt the Malthun's presence in the fabric of reality. This isn't just a war. This is the collapse of everything. If we do nothing, we might as well lay down and wait for the end. But if we act, if we take the veil's offer, we have a chance to change the game. We may not win, but we'll die on our feet, not our knees. Lena took a deep breath, her gaze flicking from Xiao to Harper, and then to the executor, whose ageless eyes seemed to pierce through her. She had spent her life defending Earth, watching humanity struggle to overcome its own flaws, its history of self-destruction, and its failures. But now, facing a force beyond comprehension, she realized that perhaps the very things that made humanity so volatile, its relentless will to survive, its capacity for innovation, its boundless ambition, might be the key to overcoming the Malthun. She clenched her fists, feeling the surge of determination she had always carried deep within her. This wasn't just about saving Earth anymore. It was about saving the future of every species, every culture, every star that burned in the sky. The Veil were offering more than just an alliance. They were offering humanity the chance to define its own destiny on a galactic scale. But the question remained. Could they survive long enough to take that chance? "I'm not afraid of taking risks," Lena said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I'm afraid of letting this universe fall into the hands of a force that doesn't care. If we don't stand now, then we've already lost." The executor's expression softened, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Then we begin. You must understand, Lena, this isn't just about technology. It's about understanding the fundamental nature of existence itself. The Malthun is a correction, a way to restore balance, but it is not infallible. We believe that the key to resisting it lies within humanity's unyielding will. Your species has a unique capacity for defying odds, for adapting to the impossible." Xiao turned to Lena, his eyes filled with the unspoken weight of their decision. "We've always fought against the odds, Lena. From our first steps into space to the rise of the Hammerfall, we've never backed down. We were born for this moment. It's our time." Lena nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle within her. There was no turning back now. Whatever the cost, they would face the Malthun together. The executor gestured to a console embedded into the floor. The room seemed to pulse with energy, as though it were alive, waiting for the next step. Lena approached it cautiously, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface. A holographic projection flickered to life before her eyes, showing a web of interconnected pathways, lines of energy, threads of consciousness, and the vast expanse of space-time itself. "This is the beginning," the executor intoned. "We have learned how to harness the core of this convergence, but we need your help to complete it. You must link your minds to the system, integrate your collective consciousness with the quantum matrix. Once we initiate the process, there will be no turning back. You will become a part of the fabric of existence, woven into the very structure of reality." Lena looked at Xiao and Harper, both of them silently agreeing with the decision they had made. They would become something. More than human, more than just survivors. They would be the resistance, the legacy that would fight back against the Malthun, no matter what it cost. With a deep breath, Lena activated the console. A surge of energy flooded the room, and the air seemed to thicken as her mind expanded. Connected to the Veil technology, images, thoughts, and sensations flooded her consciousness. She felt the weight of millennia of Veil knowledge, the secrets of the universe, the raw energy of the stars, and the cold emptiness that was the Malthun's wake. The shift was overwhelming. The universe felt different now, fragile, yet brimming with possibility. Humanity was no longer just a bystander in the cosmos. They had just become its new protectors. They were no longer waiting for the Malthun to come for them. They were prepared to fight back, to shape their own destiny, and to do what no other species had ever managed, to defy entropy itself. As Lena's mind began to settle, the executor's voice broke through, calm and resolute. "The process has begun. Now we wait. You will see the Malthun's approach before anyone else. You will be ready." And with that, the universe held its breath. The fate of all life in the galaxy now rested on the shoulders of humanity. But for the first time in millennia, the cosmos had hope.